Hello and welcome back to Nerd News Today, and in this episode we have another statue review coming your way. And today it's another look at a different piece from the Spider-Man the Animated Series bust series from Diamond Select. And in this episode we're taking a look at none other than Dr. Octopus. Doc Ock is one of those perennial Spider-Man villains that really you can never get tired of. There's always something different about him, always something different happening to him. He's either a good guy, he's either a bad guy, he's a tweener, he's Doc Ock. He kind of just does whatever the heck he wants at this point. Usually that's wrapping his tentacles around Peter Parker's throat or trying to wrap other tentacles around Aunt May, but that's for a different video altogether. So real quick, let's just talk about this packaging here, and you guys basically have seen this before if you looked at any of our other resin bust pieces from Diamond Select. The front of the box has the Spider-Man Animated Series logo, along with an image of Dr. Octopus, a photo of the prototype of this piece here. And if we rotate it to one side, we've got Spider-Man swinging on a rope over here, swinging on his webbing with the Spider-Man logo, and on the opposite side, we have the exact same thing. So yeah, okay, not super exciting here. But if we go ahead and rotate to the back of the box, we get not much else, actually. The back of the box doesn't have any bio information or anything, which is one of my favorite things about a lot of the Diamond Select PVC pieces, where you get some bio, some sort of background or something. But with the resin busts and just the resin piece in general, you don't get that. So what we do get here is it just telling us that it's a resin statue, that it's limited edition to only 3,000 pieces, and that it was designed by Barry Bradfield and sculpted by Paul Harding. So shout out to those two gentlemen. But really, that's enough about the box here. I mean, yeah, sure, it's a cool box, but if that was the whole review, then it'd be a pretty lame video. So let's go ahead and take this Doc Ock out of the packaging and get a better look at this resin statue from all angles. And I guess, in this case, all tentacles. All right, and here is our Doc Ock now out of the packaging. Let's go ahead and do a quick rotation as we get our initial thoughts on this character and how he looks. And I have to tell you guys, out of the box, pretty impressive. I mean, I get now why this box was so big. And if you're wondering about it, yeah, it's because it was basically to kind of form around all those tentacles you're currently seeing from behind right now. In fact, there actually was a block of styrofoam that was kind of meant to go in between his arm and that top tentacle to make sure that, or at least to do its best to ensure that it wouldn't snap off during transportation. Luckily, Diamond does a very good job at packaging their stuff for the most part, so it's never really been much of an issue. I think I've had, like, of all the statue reviews I've done, 2, I want to say, where I actually had to send it back to get a replacement statue because something was busted. But otherwise, you know, they're very good at packaging their stuff here, so you really don't need to worry too much about this Doc Ock because, you know, even with some of these pieces here, these are pretty sturdy looking tentacles. You know, these are, you know, let's say to compare it with Spider-Man, who we looked at not that long ago, to compare it to him and his little flippy hand, this is me doing the flip hand, you know, he had a piece of webbing coming out of his wrist there. That was a lot more tenuous than these pretty thick tentacles. And even these claw parts here are actually fairly sturdy. I mean, with enough force, yes, I think the tentacles could snap off, but it's going to take a good amount of force to make that happen. So don't think it's anything you need to be too concerned about because they're all pretty solid, and the way they're shaped too, like they're kind of meant to be able to absorb a little bit of impact. If they did fall from a shelf, however, that might be game over for them. So let's talk about likeness and I guess overall look as well. So, you know, how does this look? Does this thing look like Dr. Octopus from that 90s Spidey cartoon show? And I'm gonna say, yeah. You know, I always felt his look was kind of interesting here. I think it is pretty accurate, but the thing is, like with the sneer, it almost looks a little bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger from certain angles. You know, as maybe you can see it better from this side, perhaps. I know, like looking at him from above in particular, he kind of looks a little bit Schwarzenegger-esque. And you know, to be fair also, Doc Ock's age has always been like so bizarre and how they've portrayed him in comics. And it's kind of the same thing with the cartoon show. It's like, how old is this dude actually supposed to be? And it's always a little hard to actually tell for sure. So, you know, case in point here, I think that's kind of the issue with the face, and that's not really, you know, the fault of Diamond. It's more so just the fault of like the initial design. Because Doc Ock was one of those characters who I liked the armor, I liked what they did with his look, kind of, sort of, but they also just made him like so buff, so roided out. They added this like yellow armor stuff to him, and it kind of like took away the class from Doc Ock and made him just a lot more super villainy and less like mad scientist super villainy. So, you know, same thing with the face. They kind of did like all these different things with his face, but for that matter, it does look really good. I could just be here critiquing about the cartoon show, and I feel like that's what I'm doing right now. But really, you know, as far as the face goes, I mean, I think it looks like him. It has that same sneer, that expression on his face. It also has the very distinctive bowl cut, which you can see now in all of its glory. Because, I mean, really, what is Doc Ock without his bowl cut? He has to have the bowl cut. He most certainly does here in this case. I also like the nice job they did here painting some of that glare off of his glasses. And speaking of, let's kind of talk a little bit more about the outfit and also the paint job on this piece, because as we talked about in some of the X-Men pieces in particular, X-Men pieces have a lot of big, striking black paint parts to them, as well as some of the shell shade. It's a completely different video altogether. As far as the cell shading look goes here, Spider-Man was a lot more subtle about using that in the cartoon show, and it's very much the same here as we kind of rotate Doc Ock around some more. You'll see, in certain spots he has some shading, but for the most part, very little. You can see it in particular in like his chest piece over here. You can see it kind of over here in the shoulder piece. Not really a lot of it though. I mean, you can see some peeking out of the forearm, which we'll get to in a little bit. I'd say the most painted shading is happening here in the tentacles, because you can see there's like multiple shades here. There's the base coat, there's this darker blue over here, and we also have some little bits of white poking out on top of it, because that's, I guess, where the light source is coming from at this angle. And I guess we can figure that out too, because his hair up here is dark towards the back part. There's some more shading too. So that is essentially like where the light source is coming from. It's meant to be coming from like this angle on top right above him. And yeah, so because of that, not really getting like super darks. And there's like a little bit of dark in that elbow you just saw pass by on the screen. But otherwise, like not very dramatic, really, not a lot of shade going on here. But that's fine. I mean, there is some subtle weathering, and of course we do have all the black outlines here, but they're pretty thin this time around. They're not really overdoing it. Like, let's say Spidey, he's a great example because he's got tons of black lines all over him, but in the case of Doc Ock here, not really happening. And that in turn makes this piece, oddly enough, a little bit more dimensional, but also at times a little more flat, because like I'm looking at his chest piece here and his stomach, and it's almost a little flat, maybe like too cartoony, and it feels less like a statue. I mean, this looks really great, I gotta say. Just like looking at it right now on camera and how it's looking, it looks really cool. It looks like it's straight out of the cartoon, but I also do want it to look like it is a statue. So for me, that's just a weird little thing to note. That might just be how I'm lighting it. Perhaps I'm just lighting it a little too brightly with white light. I mean, let's say if I was now to come in here with a little bit of, let's say some of this color maybe. Let's play with some colors and see if it changes how it looks at all here. Let's try it with some red maybe. Like red and green should go very well together. So let's see how he's gonna look now with some of this shade right here. That definitely helps. So yeah, you do kind of need some extra kind of dramatic lighting going on here to help him feel a little bit less flat, a little bit less cartoony, make him feel a bit more three-dimensional and formful. But I mean, besides that though, it does look really great with this. I mean, this would actually be perfect if I had another light here, which I do, but I'm not getting that today, but that's for a future video. So yeah, otherwise though, I mean, he's looking pretty strong. I mean, you can see, especially now with this extra light here, the detail in his cheekbones and the kind of depth that is in fact here. So, I mean, yeah, it's a really strong looking piece all around. And it's definitely one of the bigger pieces because of these enormous tentacles here, which are really cool. Now let's just talk a little bit about the base also, because I really like what they did with the base here. And bases are all generally the same across all of these statues, and they kind of have like one uniform look to them. In the case of the Spider-Man series, they're doing this round base, which has all these different lines on it. Similar again to like what we've seen in the past, but this is like their color scheme, this is their design scheme. It's just slightly different, but still fits into all the other busts they've done. What is especially different about this though is the Art Deco design that you can see on the base here, which comes in basically the form of, basically the way the architecture of this base is set up with the columns and with the triangle shapes, and also the fact that you can see some sort of like suspension bridge detail going on in those pieces there. That makes it very kind of New York City, very NYC. So nice detail. I'm really enjoying those bases. And by the way, just because I haven't shown you guys the bottom of the base yet, every piece is individually numbered, and that's how they look with little rubber stoppers on the feet to help it so that it does stay in place, especially if you put it on a glass surface or somewhere where it might slide a little bit. And I've got a little piece of styrofoam that's been bugging me the whole video. Got it. All right, so let's do a quick rotation now as I give you guys my final thoughts on this Dr. Octopus piece here. And it's a really strong piece. Again, I don't think I've said anything bad about any of these animated series resin mini busts. Like, I've never had really a bad thing to say about any of them because they are truthfully really great pieces. I mean, I love them. I think they're affordable. They're a wonderful size that makes them great for putting on any shelf, really. Even if you're not a statue collector too, even if you're just collecting because you like the Spider-Man animated series or the X-Men animated series, whatever it might be, great size, excellent price, a lot of bang for your buck, especially with Doc Ock here, because he is a bigger piece thanks to those giant tentacles, not because of that giant gun show you see here on his biceps. But he's a larger scale piece because of those, but he looks great. I mean, he's gonna look really, really nice on the shelf, especially with all the other characters. You know, the fact that he has this green and yellowy orange kind of color scheme is going to really pop out next to Spider-Man. That was basically what the cartoon series wanted to accomplish, I feel like, is make that kind of pop, make that look good, and they're doing it here. So yeah, nothing bad to say about these pieces. Excellent detail, love the form, love the shape, love the cell shading. The way they use the black here also for the outlines, very nice, a lot more subtle than we've seen in that Spidey, and I'd say even more so than some other pieces we're going to be looking at here in the near future. But yeah, I mean, they nailed this, they got this thing, I'd say excellent. This is a must-have. If you're getting these Spidey pieces, then yeah, you gotta have Doc Ock. You can't not have Doc Ock in your collection. And speaking of, if you do want to add this Dr. Octopus bust to your collection, consider using our Amazon affiliate link, which you can find in the description below. If you use our links, it helps this channel at no extra cost to you, and that support means we can make more videos. And I can also buy fancier lights than what I have right now. So, with all that said, that's our look at Doc Ock, the Dr. Octopus mini resin bust from Diamond Select, from their Spider-Man the Animated Series lineup. And there's a lot more good things coming on the way. You know, if let's say Dr. Octopus here was the litmus test for how the future is going to look for these pieces, the future is very, very bright. And yeah, cannot wait to see who's coming out next. Let me know in the comments who you want to see join this line and how soon you want them to join. And by the way, Venom is not an acceptable answer because everybody wants Venom. So think outside the box a little bit, or think outside the symbiote maybe. So anyway, until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. We'll see you guys here later for more statue reviews, toy reviews, and everything else we do here on this channel.